passes, then they're going to then go for a treaty next. And then the voice will be kind of negotiating the treaty with the government. And then once a treaty exists, so I mentioned the Waitangi Tribunal in New Zealand. So there was a treaty between the Maori people and the British Crown that was kind of signed in like the mid 19th century. And the treaty basically said three things. It said the Maori will submit to the Crown, and in exchange, the Crown will give them the full rights that all British subjects have. So they'll become citizens of New Zealand and of the British Empire, and that the Maori will get to kind of keep their property. So if the Maori had, I don't know, wherever they lived, that land still belonged to them, they would have full property rights, and the areas where they fished, they would have like rights over that and that kind of thing. And that was the agreement basically to end hostilities between them and the British and create kind of stable government in New Zealand. And the Waitangi Tribunal was set up to interpret that treaty. You know, I can't remember exactly what date the tribunal itself was set up, but many decades ago. And then over time, the courts have reinterpreted the role of, which was just supposed to be this advisory board that would, you know, represent the Maori interpretation of the treaty and make representations in a similar way to the voice to the government. But over time, the New Zealand court system has given it so many powers. It's kind of intervened upon it and granted it the ability to basically, even like New Zealand's foreign policy. Now the Waitangi Tribunal has something to say about that, and the government has to listen. Basically, the Waitangi Tribunal can take the New Zealand government to court over any policy that it wants to institute or any law that it wants to pass. And like, because it's like has this formal authority over the treaty, this has then been interpreted by the courts to give them de facto veto power over like so much of New Zealand's government and procedures. So there's kind of like two governments almost in New Zealand. There's the normal government, and then there's this tribunal that has all this constitutional power to intervene and legal power to intervene on the New Zealand government, and their powers only increase more and more. So there's like this UN document that the tribunal was pushing for on like the rights of Indigenous people that they claim gives them even more expansive power that they've been pushing, which is a document that has nothing to do with the original treaty signed, you know, over almost 200 years ago, 150 years ago, whatever it is. And now now the tribunal is saying that this is giving them all of these extra powers, and the court's starting to kind of integrate that. And so the powers just keep increasing. They just keep adding more and more bullshit to kind of expand and expand and expand their power over the government. And this is what's obviously going to happen here. Like if this gets up, it's only going to increase. They're going to push for a treaty. They're going to negotiate some kind of treaty. And then even if the treaty that they negotiate is very fair and reasonable and doesn't give them everything that they want, over time they'll push that because they're the official body that presides over the treaty, they'll push to keep expanding their powers. That's how like the court system works. So what they're saying to the Australian people right now is it's just an advisory body. Don't worry about it. Just vote for it because Aboriginals deserve representation. And it's like a Trojan horse that they're trying to slip into the political and legal system so that they can just gradually expand it over time.
What's the best